welcome to episode 8 of the Royal One podcast, the podcast that empowers you to discover your purpose, embrace your identity, and engage faith tenaciously. I'm your host, Dr. Lysandra Barnes, life coach, Bible teacher, author, and founder of Royal One Enterprise, a women's empowerment company. How are you guys doing today? I'm feeling so good. I'm so excited to be with you, and I am ready to jump into a new episode. In this episode, we're going to be talking about embracing the royal woman within. We have 3 special guests today. It's going to be the original ladies of royalty, my sister, Aquelia Bostic, Shannon Sweet, and Tiffany Smith. I am so excited, you guys. Here's the thing. We live in a society that provides unrealistic expectations for daily perfection. So when we accept who we are, we will increase our confidence to be the person that God's created us to be and not compare ourselves to the changing trends. So let's go on a journey of empowerment to really discuss what does it mean to be a lady of royalty and how to embrace that woman. So are you ready to go on this journey of empowerment? Then let's go. They are royalty. Da, 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 da. Quayla, Shannon, and Tiffany. Hey, hey. Hey, ladies. How are you guys doing today?
What's going on, Dr. Lysandra Barnes?
What?
Okay. I am here for it. How are y'all?
Everything is wonderful. This is so sweet to be able to come together as the original royalty and just have this opportunity for us to be here. It's like, wow, I'm so excited for us to start talking back and forth and going over what royalty is.
And also to just share our experience and how we can empower and enlighten women to embrace that concept and really just apply it to your life and take it to the next level.
The reason why I brought you guys here today is because you have been such a blessing in my life. My sister is Aquelia, and then these were her 2 best friends, Shannon and Tiffany. And growing up, I watched them. They're 8 years older than I am. So I was 8 years old, 9 years old when they were, teenagers. I've always looked up to them as my role models. I think the turn of the time for me was when they started their group called Royalty. And it was something different. We're from a small town, one inner city high school. And so you only had a certain type of people there. Like you had the smart people, but then you had those who were just athletes, or, there was freak nasty walk right past me. They was hood ready to fight. You had different women,
Facts.
Come on now.
But
Facts.
You didn't have that person that could be a woman of God, like saved, loves Jesus, but I'm still fly. I'm still popular. I can still be me. And so for me, when I saw them, it changed the game. So ladies, tell me, what is royalty to you and who came up with it? Tell us about it.
Who's going first?
I'm going to defer to Tiffany or Quayla to start that off, just about how it started.
You know what? I think when it started, and I don't remember the full details, like if it was a conversation or whatever, but I do remember that it was that element of really knowing and understanding who we were, right? And we knew we were different, and we knew that we were okay with that. And I think royalty was just putting a name on it. And when we first started, it was like, we were the it girls, it was like we royalty, all of that. And it was interesting because we had a way with people, from a leadership or an influence element. And then we introduced the Christ side of it as well. It's okay to be who you are and your authentic self because the relationship that you have with God. When Tiffany and I would be like regularly out yelling, royalty, baby, Shannon would always say, I just think it's something spiritual about it. Just something spiritual about it, which was true, right? But I think it was the combination of the two. It was young, vibrant young women and learning and understanding who we were because of the love of Christ and how he showed up in our lives. That's really how it kicked off.
And I think too that it was something, I think you named it too, Quay, when you said it was something that we put a name to it. I can't say that I recognized royalty within myself all along, but I knew from the way that I didn't fit in or that we didn't fit in with everybody else, there was definitely something different about us. And it was something that was really at a high level that everybody else would recognize. Now, for me, I can't say I always recognized it and I always embraced it, but other people always recognized that particular element about it. And so then we knew it wasn't just something in us, it was something greater than us. And that's how we were able to take both of those and put them together. And it's the very thing that follows me throughout my life. I could go anywhere and that element is still visible, that people recognize it. And then it becomes, well, it's royalty, baby. I can't tell you, I can't give you a formula. It's just royalty, baby. I mean, that's all I can do and explain it. But yes, it was those years going all through middle school, because we became really good friends in middle school. If I can diverge just a bit and just talk about that history there, Tiffany and myself, we all grew up in the same ministry. And so it was our parents. And so we kind of had the same lifestyle, the same calendar, the same events that we had to do. And then it was my father ministering to Mr. Barnes and Mrs. Barnes, which is Daquela and Sandra's parents, ministering to them. And then that kind of brought us all together as friends. And that happened in middle school. And this thing really did take all that time up until whatever that moment was. I just remember us being in the hallway around the lockers talking. And it was something about, we always caught things, it was just little phrases and things that we always caught. But this one, I don't know what happened in that moment, but we was like, royalty, baby, and just started. And royalty means, just so you know, it means regularly out yelling and literally taking yours. So,
yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Look, I learned something new today.
You didn't know that, Sandra?
No, never.
That's what that meant. That's what that meant. Out yelling and literally taking yours. All of those just made that combination for us in that moment when royalty was, I would say, birthed in that moment.
It is like so crazy thinking back, current day, to going back to us having the wherewithal, the wisdom, the insight to be able to even recognize the difference that we had, and then to also just add to identify it, and then make people align with the vision that we have for ourselves at that young of an age. That is just like mind-blowing to me when I look back on it, because it was something that kind of grounded us, that kind of set us apart even more. As we see now, even Sandra now having birthed the Royal One podcast, like it is just so powerful to know that as young women, we were able to sense that it factor, which we know now as God's grace and his anointing, but that it factor that we had then, and having people to really, latch on to it, to agree with us, to align with treatment that aligned with, being royal is just so phenomenal to me. And I can remember just having such pride in the sense of being able to be confident in who I was at that young age, because I could identify that I am royalty. It's just such a powerful thought, I think, to even kind of process as you're looking to like identify where you're going and kind of identify as women. We go through so many different changes and the process of growth and development. It is just mind-blowing to know that that was a part of our foundation. And I would even venture to say why we are all so successful as we are today, because that was a part of our foundation.
Watching it from afar, you guys went off to college, did your own thing. I would come up in middle school trying to find my group to be like, we are royalty. I got to tell you, I am a princess. I'm not a pauper. Like, let me tell you, I'm not doing this. I have the standard, but no one could get with my vision.
Wow.
So I had to just become, from middle school on, everyone knows me as Miss Royalty. So if you see my handle for everything, like yahoo.com got Miss Royalty. Like, was it Black Planet page, Miss Royalty. Like, so I had to take it on for myself to say, you know what? I am a daughter of a king. And it was just this movement that I couldn't let go, because I found what it meant for purpose. And it just, I don't know, it was just the elegance of it. And so for me, each woman had a different vibe to the group. We know Tiffany is fabulous, hands down. She had nails. Like, let me tell you, I was
got them. Don't play with me. This still got them.
She kept the nails to the max, okay? So Shannon was always saved. Let me tell you, Shannon was saved from day one from that scripture. But it was the power of that. And then Quay, I mean, she could do no wrong. I literally mirrored my life after hers. She worked at the library. I worked at the library. She was a cheerleader. I was a cheerleader. Went to Michigan State. I went to Michigan State. She went to the choir. I was in the choir. She was a chaplain. I was a chaplain. She was in the ministry. I was in the ministry. She went to Oregon. I went to Oregon. So it was just to see how you guys just embrace it so much. You can really do anything. Royalty is something for everybody. It's not one cookie cutter look. And that's one thing that I appreciate about you guys is that you all carry it in your own way. And so that's what encouraged me to be me. Just be who you are. Be you, but we're about to be fly when we do it. So how do you encourage someone who's feeling like I'm uncomfortable being myself? So how did you encourage them to embrace that royal woman on the inside? What would you tell them?
I'm going to stick with my label of being the saved one. I think that when you think about it, in and of ourselves, we don't have what it takes to be anything, right? So I think when we talk about the royalty piece and we also talk about that the God piece with it, that to me is the point that I'm able to use to help women see the value that they have within them. There's a difference between just an experience and a movement. When it is a movement, that thing is a continual thing. It is not done at the end of that experience. It continues to multiply. It continues to increase. It continues to find different avenues and reform itself. And so coming across women who may struggle with who they are and struggle with their self-esteem and things like that, it is always taking them back to, being fearfully and wonderfully made and using and having the word as that foundation. I think that is that number one thing. Then you go into the other things. What is it that you want to? We all have work that we could do on our bodies physically. It's not just all spiritually, right? So what is it that we can work on? What is it that you can work on to build yourself up in that area? Sometimes there are things that we do need to do to build ourselves up so we can feel better. Maybe it is the nails, maybe it is the lashes. Maybe it is just taking time out. And it's okay. I think a lot of times as women, we don't think that it's okay to do all of those things, all of those exterior things. But I think it's a both and not an either or. Like you said, you can be a fly woman that loves God and that is anointed, that can do everything that God has called you to do and just really look good doing it. And so just really taking those things and mixing those up to help women is one of the approaches that I try to use.
And I agree with everything you said, Shannon, and I'm really trying to find the words not to reiterate what you said or copy that, but I think it's really taking the time to understand who you are and who you are in God, right? Because when you can get a clear understanding of what that is, you can look at and understand what all your flaws are, where your strong points are, where your weaknesses are, and bring it all into perspective, right? Because every woman wakes up one day and say, I don't feel good, I don't look pretty, I could change this, I'm not where I want to be in my career. But it's really a matter of saying, but you know what? I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And I am in the place that God has positioned me to be for right now. And he has already ordered my steps. So I might not be there yet, but I'm getting there. And so as a woman, I have to internalize that. And I have to know that even if I don't feel it, and even if I don't see it, that God is already working things out for me. And so I can look in the mirror and I can say, yes, you know what? I might not look good. I might not feel good, but God. And I am who I am because he says who I am, right? And so that internal confidence does not have to be built solely on me, but it's built on the fact that I'm created in his image. When I'm feeling down, I have to get up and say, wait a minute. And this is something we used to always say, don't you see this crown on my head? I'm royalty. You have to snap yourself back into place, right? Wait a second. Oh, no. I will be, the next VP. I will be the next business owner. Why? Because God has already ordered my steps. And that's that level of confidence that the people that don't have that relationship can't tap into, because you looking at the Instagram models and you looking at all the girls who are doing God knows what, or all the people who you think are in good positions, but they don't have that foundation. And so when you know who God is to you, you're comfortable in the place that you're in, and the fact that you can get to where he has for you to be.
I love that. Yeah, I agree with both of what Shannon and Aquila said. And just to add some like practical components to that is kind of piggybacking off of what Aquila said is, really just identifying who you are by confessing who you are, even when you don't feel like it. By not allowing yourself to have comparison issues, to look at others and rate who you are, what you are, and where you are based upon someone else. I mean, that is like a sure way to really like just go left for no reason, because everyone has a process. And that's, I think, one thing that I learned like in my late 20s is that my process, my stepping stones, my journey does not look like anyone else's. And the moment that I had a true resolve with that particular truth, I was able to accept me as is, with every flaw, and understanding that it is through God's strength that I'm able to do and to become. And so I have to really begin to like lean on and trust in God in those moments in which I felt like I'm not good enough, or I'm not pretty enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not thick enough, like whatever the I'm not enough is, you know what I'm saying? And really just making sure that healthy inner dialogue, I mean, that is like a must. Whatever it takes for you to have a healthy inner dialogue with yourself, you need to make that happen. For me, it's prayer, it's reading my word, it's meditation, it's exercising. Like all of those different things help me to kind of center myself back to the original state in which God created me to be, back to my purpose, making sure that I am not comparing, and making sure that I am not being fearful of what's to come, but really resting in that this is my process, that this is my journey, and this is what it looks like, and this is what I look like in the journey, and it's all good, you know what I'm saying? And just making sure that I am in that space of recognizing who I am despite of anything that I've done, anything I've overcome, anything that's been said or not said, all those different pieces that try to shape us and form us. We have to be super intentional, very strategic and spiritual to make sure that we are masking and just taking away those lies and those things that try to derail us, and just making sure that we're tapping into the royal nature of who we are.
I was a part of a relationship that ended with domestic violence. I had to find myself. So although you were raised as, you are royalty, this, but life sometimes happens and you find yourself in a position where you've lost your crown. And you're now the pauper. You don't know who you are anymore. You've allowed life and everything else to tell you that you're something else. And for me, at that moment, God had to remind me that you are enough. Matter of fact, you are more than enough. Like, I've created you as my daughter. And now I have to help you to rewrite that narrative. I talk about it in my book, this really great process. It's called Lies, Fear, Shame, and Truth exercise. So what you do is that you take a piece of paper, pray first, because you got to be right in the spirit, because you're getting ready to do some deep internal work. On one half of the paper, you write down what you do like about yourself, and then you write down what you don't like about yourself on the other side. Once you get that list, you will see that your list of what you do like is way smaller than the list of what you don't like. And then from that list of what you don't like, you're writing in your facial features, your character traits, everything. And then you want to really hone in on those negative narratives that you have of like, I'm not loved, I'm not wanted, I'm not enough, I'm ugly, I'm rejected. Look at those things, because that's what the enemy uses to hold us captive the most. Although we can say I'm royalty till I'm blue in the face on the outside, on the inside, I'm still struggling with, is that true? And so God began to say, okay, now we know the lie. What's the fear? What are you afraid is going to happen because you believe this thing about yourself, truthfully, on the inside? And then once you figure that out, you look at the shame. What event happened to cause you to believe the lie and be afraid that this thing is going to happen? And when you start really unpacking those things, you can see like, oh my goodness, for me, it was father wounds. that set everything up. That yes, I always strive to be this woman that's whole, but on the inside, I had this internal struggle. Mm-hmm. And then the Lord was like, but what's the truth? What do I say about you? Mm-hmm. And take that time to rewrite that narrative, coming against every one of those lies that the enemy is using against you with the truth of his word. And I would put it around my apartment or my dorm room or wherever, and then start rehearsing that truth. So like every time, you can see now, like in my background, I have Lady of Royalty right there. Matter of fact, I have 3 other ones over there, that it just reminds me of who I am. Knowing that now, nope, I don't care what happened in your life. You can always come back to that space of knowing who you are and knowing that you are more than enough. So I want the woman who's listening right now that's struggling with how do I embrace my true royal woman on the inside, to know that you are more than enough. And it doesn't matter what role that you're on or what cards you've been given, but God has a plan and purpose for your life. And there are people waiting to hear your story. So your story is just as powerful to the little girl who's looking at you at the church or at the schoolhouse or, you know, at your workplace. Those people are still looking at you, and you may not realize that your life was, you know, an example, because I doubt that these women realize how impactful their just living changed my life. So I want to encourage them in that moment to say, do you, and do it well.
The Royal One podcast is sponsored by Royal One Enterprise. Royal One Enterprise is an empowerment company that utilizes life coaching, Bible teaching, speaking, and consulting to equip women with the confidence to embrace the royal woman within. For more information, visit my website at www.royal1enterprise.com. All right, guys, let's jump back into the conversation.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. So how has this movement of royalty in your lives, how have you seen it still manifest? Like, is it still manifesting? Did you kind of move away to something else? Like, where are you guys at with it?
I would have to say it's so crazy that even not until we were just like talking, and I was listening to Shannon talk and Taquila talk about royalty and just about all of the favor, I think for me, it's followed me everywhere. And it wasn't until I like realized it in these moments that we're talking now that, man, that was the royalty factor that's really been following me throughout my entire life, always not really fitting in. The responses of people in general, where we're talking personal business or whatever the case may be, that has been it. That is a common thread. And as we're kind of talking about it, you know, it's just kind of making me just pause for a moment and say, wow, you know, and be eternally grateful, because everybody don't have it. Let me just say this.
Okay, look.
And not from a space of being superior than anyone else, but just a space of some are called, I think, to lead differently. And for us, as a part of our journey, we're called to lead differently so that others can glean from and say, hey, let me embrace the royalness within me. And so throughout my entire journey, I think the royalty factor has been there and been there strong. And I'm super grateful for it, super thankful. And now, Dr. Barnes, I'm going to be a little bit more conscious about that movement in my life. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just an awesome thing. Yeah. I'll let somebody else jump in.
Just to piggyback off of that too, how it's definitely a common thread, and I can see it in both directions. I can see it before me, and I can see it long after me. I can see how there has been women that had the royalty factor, but could never name it, could never walk in it for whatever reason, but they had it. And those are the many different pieces that stuck to me, that make me who I am. I've picked up from many women before me. Now seeing it, not even, you know, even when we first birthed it, just seeing the next generation, like my sister Kelly and Courtney and Kristen and all of them and Ebony taking it on, and they were part of that royalty, seeing it, you know, replicate. I mean, shoot, my dog's name is Royalty. My dog's name is Royalty. And just seeing how it just duplicated itself without any effort already let me know it was something that God had control of and that I didn't. And I was just going to continue to ride the wave. I was going to continue to let that royalty show up wherever it needs to. So now I have women who look up to me, who call me their inspiration and all of those great things that, you know, I don't necessarily look at it in that way, but they do. That is that same thing replicating itself over and over again in my life, going to work, in the jobs that I have, the relationships that I have. It's been that royalty. I mean, and I just declare that royalty prepares the way for wherever I'm going. It just prepares the way for me to step into my destiny and to step into what I'm supposed to be, where I'm supposed to be, who I'm supposed to be with, what I'm supposed to be doing, all of that good stuff.
I would say that royalty shows up in my life every single day, and God's favor has just been just remarkable. I have been so abundantly blessed that I feel uncomfortable even talking about it. I always shy away from it, and I don't want to talk about it and don't call it out, but it's just so overwhelming, and I'm so grateful and so thankful that God shows up in my life the way he does. And it goes back to the whole element of royalty. When I look at, you know, from a career perspective and from a family perspective and from a ministry perspective and from a financial perspective and from a business perspective, everything that surrounds me, God is already, but I see it every day. I'm so thankful for it. In everything that I touch, you know, everything that's around me, and I can see the footprints, or as Shannon would say, the fingerprints you have in the different interactions with people. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for these women. I'm thankful for the fact that they never made me feel like I was an outcast because I didn't go to the same church. You know, I'm thankful that they embraced me into that circle, and we were all able to be exactly who we were. I could rock in my lane. Tiffany rocked in her lane, and Shannon rocked in her lane, but we were all still three, you know? And it's so interesting to see how that still plays out, you know, in my life today, where I'm completely confident and comfortable in being who I am, being just me, right? Because I know that that's who I'm destined to be. And so I'm thankful for God's favor, and I'm thankful for what royalty is to me and always has been to me, and what it will continue to be.
As I'm sitting here thinking about it now, like as I'm looking at you three, but I have two of my friends, we call ourselves the trio. Like we are the trio. Once we got together, it's like we're a trio because one, we're all three chocolate women around the same age, and we all have doctorates, and we all just keep it real. So like we're the trio. Like I think about our relationship because we just did a Zoom yesterday, and now I'm sitting here with you guys like, yeah, we're about the same. One is fabulous. One is I'm the same one. and you know,
We all say, okay,
right. Don't get it twisted. Let me clarify. Okay. Way saved and sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost. Shannon, saved and sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost. Tiffany, saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost. Give them a microphone. They'll pray, get to the flow, crying, snotting, and it all. Don't get it twisted. They will figure it out. And that's where I got it from. But what I'm saying is that like one person has like, so like I'm the preacher of the group. So everybody know I'm a preacher, but I'm just grateful to see that. So as a royal woman, so we said that it's a confidence, it's everything, but how do you display that in your family life? So like as a royal wife, as a royal mother, like how do you display that to your children or to your spouse, whichever way you want to talk about it?
I think being royal is just really being your authentic self. Royalty, of course, has another level of standard, I believe, another level of intentionality and excellence. And so it can be perceived in different ways and different fashions. But for us showing up as like who we are authentically is one of the greatest, I think, gifts for us to kind of portray royalty. It's just because that's just who we are. Mm-hmm. I know for me, you know, as a mother, it was very important. Even if my child don't listen, it was always important for me to at least, you know, give her a standard, to give her an expectation to live by, you know, to give her, you know, those tools that she needed to develop herself as a young woman, to make sure that I am not perfect, but very transparent in my journey, and then able to be very honest with her about, you know, about what aligns and what does not align. And I think being royal is not about the pressure or the weight of the crown, but just the fact that you are aware that the crown is always present. You know, it's not a matter of, you know, having to do it like anybody else, But the more that you are authentic to who God created you to be, it's going to just show up. It's going to just show up. That's my 2 cents.
I think for me, like, my royalty acts a lot like my Holy Ghost. My royalty really does cause me to stop before I do something and change my reaction based on who I am and what royalty says that I am and what I would say as someone being royal. I think too, having 2 girls, it has allowed me, like Tiffany said, show what a standard is and put that standard out there. And this is the standard, regardless to what's going on around you, what everybody else look like, what everybody else is doing. Royalty carries a responsibility and a weight for you to see what this standard is, and that is who you are. This is your standard that you will see yourself strive to. Having 2 girls and being able to instill that into them has been, a blessing in and of itself, just so that they have that royalty mindset and know the way that they are supposed to, operate, just how royalty does. I think having a spouse and being married, I think that royalty really helped me to teach my husband how to interact with me or how to treat me, because royalty comes with the standard for everybody around you too now.
Right. Period.
Right. So, it just allowed me to be able to say, hey, this is that standard, honey, sweetie pie. And this is how we live in. This is how we going to do it, So really in all relationships, whether it's a spouse or friendships and all of that, I think that there is that standard that royalty allows you to set the bar. So it causes you not to compromise. It causes you to really, like we said at the top of this, know your identity and know who you are, because when you do, then you take that standard with you. And like Tiffany said too, sometimes it can be perceived as something that is not. So either you can be offended and not partake, and that's your choice, or you could say, that's royalty and I know what I have to do in order to maintain within this, relationship or friendship or whatever.
I mean, I think you guys summed it up nicely. I'm trying to figure out what else is to add in there. But I will say just the fact and knowing and understanding that you are an example. And you are an example to what royalty looks like to your kids. And I know I have 1 daughter and 1 son. And so for my daughter, it's just really just trying to be that good example and allowing her to see what that standard looks like. And then it's also trying to help her understand how to develop that for herself, right? So I think in today's day and age, young ladies in particular are challenged with everything else that's going on in the world. From a social media perspective, they're always looking at what's it, Instagram perspective or Facebook perspective or Snapchat, etc. It's trying to reel that in and say, wait a minute, your comparisons aren't what the world is saying things should be like. That comparison comes from within, right? And so it's finding those times to reinforce the importance of having high self-esteem, the importance of being able to build up yourself, the importance of being able to look within and see those things that you don't like, still finding some goodness in it, because you are fly regardless. And helping her to understand, yes, Sally Sue may be acting a fool, but you're too fly for that, boo. We don't do that, And so just trying to be an example of that standard and meeting her where she is to say, yeah, you might not get it, but we'll get there. That's how it shows up for me and my family.
You said you have a son. So how does that show up for him? Because for women, it's easy to tell the daughter, you got a standard, you got to hold your crown. But what do you tell a son with that same idea?
I think it goes back to being an example. He knows how I run my house. He knows the respect that I command from him and my daughter and my husband. For him, he knows in his mind what he wants when he sees a woman. Right? So he knows that he wants his woman to work. He wants his woman to be this way. He wants his woman to be that way, because that's what he sees. And when we have those conversations about those not so nice women that want to entertain him, and he has to like, I'm a man and I might talk to him, but when it comes time for me to bring somebody home, when it's time for me to build a life, this is the type of woman I'm looking for. And so just to be able to have those conversations just to make sure that he's locked in on where he should be, right? And what he should be doing is key too. And no, as women, we're not perfect, right? We're going to make some bad decisions. We're going to make mistakes, but I think that is a powerful example. So it's like when I'm down and you see me dusting myself off, pulling myself up, putting my notes on the mirror to reaffirm who I am, then you know that that's what you can do when you're down. When I fly off the handle and you see me come back and correct, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, yada, yada. That too is an example of embracing that royalness.
Because royalty is not just for women.
Mm-hmm.
It is for men as well. There is a king and a queen.
Right.
Princess and a prince. A duke and a duchess. This is for everybody. But right in front of me, I have this quote, and it says, always remember you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think, and twice as beautiful as you could ever imagine. And I would add to that, because you are royalty. I sit with different things. Like I have to have affirmations. And so that one for me is like, because you are royalty. This is why. Like, 'cause I feel like that encompasses every aspect of it. You are braver than you believe. When it's time to step out and do something that may seem bigger than you are, or take a job that is so far away from everywhere, or leave corporate and do your own business, or, get married and have a family, or start a church, or whatever it is that you are called to do. Like, you're braver than you seem. If you got to forgive, you got to heal. Like, I think that is so powerful. And then stronger than you seem. Like, you can endure a lot of things. And you can rebound from a lot of things, like, go through certain things. They experience a whole lot of scrutiny. They know how to handle it. They know how to maintain that. And it's like, you're smarter than you think, because you didn't realize that the things that you say, people actually listen to. And you have so much more influence than you realize. Like, when you really embrace who you are and walk in the fullness of it, you have more authority than you really know. And when you set that standard, people will meet you there if you believe that they have to. I just really love that. And it's like, even at the end, it's like twice as beautiful as you could ever imagine. You don't have to compare yourself to anybody. Your crown is going to be different than my crown. Embrace your unique crown and wear it right. When I think about how to navigate the workplace, how do I present myself in that space? Because I think a lot of times we think about royalty and we think about church or Christian or faith, family in our personal identity, but we don't focus on that workplace. How you present yourself in the workplace matters. What would be some good tips? Because you all are business women. You have, multiple streams of income. What would you say to a woman that's saying, hey, I love who I am on the outside. I'm confident, but when I go to work, I'm struggling. So how can I embrace my royalness in the workplace?
I would say it's finding your niche and knowing what you're good at. And then being able to put your best foot forward in that element. Just like everything else in life, really finding that niche and standing behind it. For me, it's always a struggle because I work for a technology company. I am always the only Black person. I'm often the only woman. So being the only Black woman showing up, there is already a lot of biases that go with that. Right? There is a standard that I have to hold myself to, right? So that I can show up authentically, but make sure that as I'm moving and shaking within these dynamic circles, I'm represented the way I choose to be represented. And so that's where royalty follows me to work, because it's knowing what my strong competency is, perfect in that, or operating in excellence in that. And then it's making sure that I'm being received the way I want to be. And there are times when you want to break out of that, that character or the strong suit, but it's like, no. I'm in control of how I'm going to be represented in this boardroom, period. And I think that's where that level of respect comes with it. And so I might not say a lot, but when I do, people listen, because I have that expertise that comes along with who I am and who I'm standing up to be. It's definitely not easy, but it's something that you train yourself to do, and you continue to operate in the best way that works for you.
Yeah, I would have to totally agree with that too, Quay, is that it's just one thing that I have learned to do is to not succumb to the subconscious stereotypes in the room. and to make sure that when I go into the boardroom, I am game ready.
Yes.
That I am game ready. And so for me, that requires either Lecrae or Megan Thee Stallion first. So I need some hype music. And then like Quay said, that allows me to capacity, because you're right, Quay, I'm in a company where I'm one of 34 Black people out of almost 1,000 employees. A lot of times I am the only Black woman in the room, in the boardroom, on the Zoom call, And so it does, take you being very intentional about getting game ready and just leaning into your strengths and being able to, even in that room, set the standard and set the bar. And really our presentation, how we speak, whatever we do, that is setting the bar in the workplace. And everyone will align to your excellence, to how efficient you are, to exactly what you bring to the table when you just show up. And so I would encourage people to not allow the subconscious stereotypes and things that you may think others are thinking or feeling, or whatever the case may be. Don't allow yourself to give into that, but to lean into your strengths and who you are.
I'll add on to that too, is something that I do, and I encourage other people to do too. Like Tiffany and I talked about being the only ones in the room. What can we do about that? I purpose myself to go back and recruit. Right? So I'm always mentoring other young women. I'm always going back to the colleges to recruit, to bring in diverse talent, because I'm sitting in the room today, but tomorrow I'm not going to. I'm going back and lifting up others so that we can be, at the table together. We're making moves now so that we can bring others with us. And I think that's even more important.
Yes, and I would agree with what both of you have said too. I too am just now hired someone else, but I'm just one of the African Americans in our organization. And one thing too that I attempt to do when I get an opportunity is I attempt to educate. So even in those moments, me being the only African American and the only African American woman in the workplace, I look for opportunities to be able to educate, right? Because I know that there are some allies in that room that I am going to need to hook up with to, present or do whatever it is that we need to do. So being able to educate. But I think too, with the royalty thing, one thing I attempt not to do is to, like you said, Sandra, we do have to be three-dimensional. A lot of times when we're talking about our strength and our capacity, we have it down in the spiritual world, but really God is so big, he doesn't fit in just that small box. And so the confidence you have at home, the confidence you have in your relationship, is the same confidence you call upon when you walk into the workplace, when you are having to, make deals, you're having to do all of these things. That confidence that is there, it is still there. Sometimes you do have to call up on it. Sometimes you do have to remember. The thing about being royal and the thing about being who God has called you to be, the greatest thing that God has given us is our ability to speak. He's given us the same power in our speech and our voice that he has. And so when you declare things, I declare that room to already be what it needs to be before I walk into it, right? And so I do have to prepare myself before I go into the rooms. And, people, they have more degrees than I have, they have more knowledge than I have, but yet I'm at the table just like you are. So there is a space for me to be. And if I allow all of my insecurities to steal that moment from me, the devil is a liar. I am going to be sure that the confidence that I have, the one that I know who is with me, greater is he who is with me than he that is within the world. So when I'm able to focus on those things and take those things with me, my natural personality is not confident and coming out, but when that Holy Ghost gets to moving, they don't even recognize me anymore, right? And so just taking that same confidence, don't slice the confidence up into different areas of your life. Let it be everything. Let it go with you everywhere you go. Now, it's not that it's always in front of you and you always feel it. This is not a feeling thing. Sometimes you have to declare. That's the power that God has given us. You have to declare those things that are not. So you may sound like you're lying, but you're not lying. You prophesying, you declaring it, so you may put it out there that, I'm a millionaire, or I'm getting ready to get this deal, and nothing around you looks like it, but you have to declare it, because once you declare, then everything, those chess pieces start moving to add up so that you win. That's your favor. You win in that game. And so, yeah, being the only African-American in the place, I look at it as an opportunity, number one, to shine, because I don't look like everybody else. And I already know what you think about. Maybe you possibly think about people who look like me. So I've come to change your narrative, right? I've come to eradicate what your stereotypes are. And then I come to bring you along and take you along with me and educate you.
Do you need assistance in embracing the royal woman within? Have you felt stuck and do not know how to move forward? Are you ready to grow spiritually? If you answer yes to any of these questions, you will be the perfect candidate for a coaching session. As your life and spiritual coach, I create a one-on-one partnership designed to empower you to discover your God-given potential to fulfill the dreams and goals you already have inside of you. To schedule a session with me, you can go to my website, www.lasandrabarnes.com or royal1enterprise.com, or click the link in my show notes. I look forward to engaging with you and helping you reach your next level moment. All right, guys, let's jump back into the conversation.
That is so awesome. I want to share my experience as well, because I moved out to Oregon and I was called to seminary. So going to Bible school, never gone before, but I felt like the Lord was calling me there. And I got there and I realized I was the only Black person there. And I was going in afraid. I let that fear overtake me. And then it was a few years later, and I had to step into that space of confidence to be on that campus as the only Black woman. And I realized I knew more than half the people there.
That part.
And I was like, wait, hold on, Lord, you gave me something. And then how to show up authentically myself. Like, yes, I believe something different than you guys. Let me let you know, this is why God sent me here, to be a light in this space. What does it look like to love Jesus in a way that's expressive? What does that look like, that we're not all these other things that you created in your mind that Black Pentecostals do, that we really don't? And then I realized that they started bringing me into rooms that they were like, oh my gosh, I love the way you pray. Oh, I didn't think of it like that. And then I'm getting opportunities after opportunities. Can you teach here? Can you do this? Can you do that? I'm like, okay, hey, you want to do a doctorate? Of course. But the doors that were open, and then having those conversations where you will be the only one in the room. You'll be the only one in a space where you have to then demonstrate everything that you've learned so far in a way that is regal, in a way that is confident, in a way that's authentically you. I think about the tough conversations I had to have with my cohort members right before all of this racial tension happened. Because we experienced a racial injustice with me on our retreat. So I had to be the one to express it in a way where it was challenging me. I was ready to quit and leave, but I had to hold it together and then explain and educate and inspire. And then realizing that the conversations that we were having, that God put me in those spaces, now as everything is going on in our nation, I'm getting my cohort members calling me back saying, thank you for that conversation we had. So now I can utilize it. Or thank you for having the confidence to speak in that way. So now I can stand, in that same confidence. So it's like royalty is something that's bigger. That's why it's a movement. It's bigger than just one thing. It'll travel in everything that you do and the standard that you handle. You don't have to be perfect. Being royalty doesn't mean you're perfect. It means you operate in excellence. So everything that you do it to your best ability. If you've done it to your best ability, that's excellent. You know if you haven't done it to your best ability, and if you haven't, royalty's not in full effect. It is. Best believe it. So whatever your hand touches, it will be gold because you're doing your best. And then when you do your best, everybody else has to step up to that place. We are all called to do something different, and your name of confidence may be something else. It may not be royalty, but I want to provide a platform for you to understand where I get mine from. So as you guys have listened to this conversation, you can hear where I get it from. These women are amazing. They are on fire. They love the Lord. They are business women making boss moves. What are your final thoughts from everything we've talked about? Get some time to just pour into the women or the men that are listening in this moment.
I would say a few things. The first thing is that it's okay to be multifaceted. I think that now that I'm in my 40s, I'm realizing how the different parts of me are now intersecting. And so now it's beginning to make so much more sense about why I love business, why I love culture, and I'm a woman of faith. And at the intersection of all those things, Tiffany sits in the center of that, and so it's okay to be multifaceted. It's okay to lean into your gifts and your talents and not fully know exactly where the road is going to end, but just know that if you are at peace with that, if you are comfortable in that arena, if you have purpose in that, if the hand of God is there, then just lean into that. The second thing that I want to leave with you is to have the courage to raise the bar. Have the courage to set the standard. We live in a world now where it just seems like the media creates this atmosphere of competition. Sometimes when you feel like you're in competition, you will lessen who you are and what you expect. And so I would say, have the courage to be who you are and have the courage to raise the bar, to set your standard, whatever that looks like. And even if no one else around you is setting that same standard, have the courage to set it and to keep it there until others around you have the ability, the capability to meet that standard, because there are those that can do it. So have the courage to set your standard.
I think too, I would say just leaving this conversation, I think we've lifted a lot of different nuggets that can be taken just to keep the royalty of who you are in front of you. I think adding declarations to your life according to the word that God has given or who you believe God has called you to be, but having those declarations in your life, having them up. I've heard that several times, how we have things up, but what it is that we are attempting to do and to be, we have it up in front of us. And so having those declarations there in front of you, I would also say, having that support network. I don't think that we could be where we are if we were not there as that royalty group of sisterhoods getting us through all of those different times that we went through. And so just knowing too, just because you're royal and just because you're declaring you're on the top of the mountain and can't nothing touch you and you wear a crown, there are going to be things that come in your life. But what makes you royal is your ability to rise above, your ability to get the strength to rise above or walk through that very thing and not look like what you've been through. And so I think having that gut support system there around you is important, and just being sure that you are authentically you. I know that even when we were going through this, we didn't even have the struggle of social media, presenting all these different images. And I know how tough of a struggle that is. And if you know that is a struggle, then recognize that as a struggle and do something about it. If you find yourself comparing yourself all the time, limit your time on social media, limit the time of and watch what you have in front of you. It is always good to inspire to be like someone else, but not replicate yourself to be exactly like them. We all have inspirations or people we desire to attain to and different levels we attain to and people who are there. Just taking that time to learn from those people, but please don't cross that fine line to then trying to replicate something that you're not, because then nothing that you attempt to do and nothing around you will work. So just be authentically you, and God will cause everything that belongs to you to come and find you.
You're not perfect, so don't even try to be. You have to be the best you that you can be, and don't be afraid to be you. When you are in your darkest place, you have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, girl, get yourself up and get yourself together, because you will find yourself in those places. And we talk about having such high confidence and being able to maneuver around the boardroom and being able to uplift each other and all of that. But you will find yourself at some point in time in a situation where you got to look in the mirror and say, girl, get up, get yourself up, get yourself together. And we used to say, don't you see this crown on my head? Say, the Lord rebuke you, demon. I am royalty. And that is something that you have to pull on in those times of need. That, yep, I might be feeling like I'm depressed. I might have just had a panic attack. I might have just got divorced. My kids might be acting crazy. But guess what? I am going to pull myself together because God has given me the strength to do it. So if you can take a piece of all the nuggets that we shared today, and then also say, when I'm not on my mountaintop, I have the power of God within me to raise up and be all that God has called me to be. That's what I would leave with the ladies today.
Quayla, I'm just going to add to that when I'm not on the mountaintop, that God will cause me to shine in that valley.
That part. That part. That part.
Yes. Yes.
That part.
I will shine in that valley, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Get back up to the top.
Period.
Understand is when you're
Mhm.
in that valley space, that is such a testimony and an example.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You raise up out of it, that's an
Mhm.
example. So sometimes people need to see you in that
Mhm.
valley. Sometimes you yourself need to be in that valley so you can understand the power of God and how he can remind you, right? I have ordered every single step that you take, right? And so it's knowing that and understanding that and being who you are in your successes, in your failures, in your accomplishments, in it all.
You guys just preached a whole entire sermon. I am just so excited that you guys stepped in. How can we follow you if you are on social media? I know there's going to be people that want to know more about you, what you're doing. How can we connect with you online?
The best place to follow me, I would say, is Instagram. I'm normally on there the most. And that's, you can follow me at Tiffany Inc., INC, TIFFANY INC. And so, yeah, definitely follow me on there. I'll be hosting an online women's conference coming up in January, releasing my first print book also at the top of the year. Super excited about it. It's called #Game Over, Get Your Heart in the Game. And so it's a 21-day journey to healing. And because I believe that until your heart is in a constant state of healing, you'll never become what you were always meant to be. That's being released at the top of the year. But definitely, yeah, stay connected at Tiffany Inc., TIFFANY INC. Would love to share and hear from y'all.
Awesome.
And Sandra, thank you so much, first of all, for even just having us on today. I mean, this has been like so amazing, so phenomenal. This is just great. Wishing you much success. The plan is already mapped out, so I don't even got to hype you up. You already know where you headed. Things, great things, great things. But yeah.
One of my goals has been for the last 4 years is to be consistent on social media, and I have not reached that goal yet. But I do have a couple of places that you can find me. I'm on Instagram at Miss Lady 77, so MZLADII 77, and then I'm also on Facebook at Shannon Dotson Sweet, so you can find me there. And I spend half and half when I am on social media. I spend half and half on each, so you could go on there just to stay updated and things like that. Again, too, I want to thank you, Dr. Barnes, for having the original royalty ladies here today. It's been a joy just to see everyone and to really go back and to really just be grateful for, what God has done through us.
Okay, so this is an example of how we're all in our own lanes. Like Tiffany is the social media queen. Shannon is dabbling a little bit. I am not good when it comes to social media. Now, I have a Facebook page and I have an Instagram page that I do not use very often. But after this discussion, I think I will partake a little more. So what I'll do and I'll get it out to you, Sandra, and then you can publish it. But I will say that I am launching my Ladies of Royalty Scholarship. So that is something that
Yay!
So it'll be a $1,000 scholarship, and it's going to be for African-American women with a 3.0 or better going to an HBCU.
Oh,
So,
I love it.
I will get that information out so we can share that, and then maybe that'll be the kickoff to my new social media venture.
Oh my gosh, I just do not have words. I am so full right now. You guys are so amazing. I love you all so very much. Thank you so much for even just taking the time to just want to talk. I need to let you guys know how much I love you all, how much I appreciate your standard, how much I appreciate you guys being fearless as it relates to just living your own life. I never expected you all to be perfect, but to have an example from such a young age to see what is it like to strive, to fulfill your purpose, to engage faith, to be authentically who you are in your own lane has been so helpful in shaping me to be the woman that I am. And then just to get the encouragement and the affirmations from you guys, it just means so much to me.
You hear the music, you know what time it is. Thank you everyone for stopping by and listening to the episode. I know you guys had so much fun the way that I did. I look forward to providing you with more encouraging content that empowers you to discover your purpose, embrace your identity, and engage faith tenaciously. If you have a question about faith, purpose, relationships, or anything in general that you want to be answered on the show, feel free to email me at info@lasandrabarnes.com. If you want to book a one-on-one coaching session with me, you can. Just click the link in the show notes to schedule a session. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast. You can follow me on social media at Miss Royalty 143 on Instagram and Twitter, and Dr. Lasandra Barnes on Facebook. Be on the lookout for the Ladies of Royalty Scholarship with Qualia Bostic coming up really soon for the high school student. And then follow Shannon Sweet on Facebook at Shannon Sweet Speaks, and Tiffany Smith, follow her on IG at Tiffany Inc. And if you want to purchase a copy of my book, Rejected to Accept It, it is online. Click the link in the show notes to go ahead and get that. You've been listening to the Royal One Podcast, where I empower women the royal way. You guys have a great day.